Senator Amanda Stoker. Thanks for joining us, Senator. First of all, I wanted to get your thoughts, especially with your legal background, on the reintroduction to Parliament of these laws that would impose mandatory sentences for child sex offenders. Obviously, mandatory sentences, a lot of people in the law oppose those, but this comes, the information used to support this is that almost 1 in 3 convicted pedophiles are not even spending a day in jail.
Hi, Chris. Yes, this legislation is really important because under the current system we have for dealing with people who persistently abuse children under Commonwealth law, we've had a situation where 28% of people are not, after conviction, getting sentences that involve any jail time at all. If you look over the 2014 to 19 period, it was 40%. And this is in circumstances where last year the AFP got 18,000 reports of this kind of child exploitation. It's really serious stuff, and that is double the number of complaints they got the year before. So we know there's an increasing problem. We know we need to have an effective deterrence mechanism, and we know that the judiciary at the moment are quite reluctant to impose the sentences that our legislation provides for. So we've got ways to strengthen it using mandatory sentencing.
But wouldn't most of the child sex offenders who are sentenced be sentenced under state laws, and these federal laws relating to specific types of child sex offences wouldn't actually capture too many people?
Look, it's true to say that there are a large number of state offences that deal with this kind of child abuse, but there's also a significant number of federal offences. And I used to be a Commonwealth prosecutor, so we would deal with them all the time. But everything from procuring a child online for sexual activity through to ordering child abuse online to be performed on people, to be watched remotely via the internet, the most abhorrent stuff, all are Commonwealth offences. And from that to Australians travelling overseas to other countries to abuse children, all of these Commonwealth offences, they are real, they are large in number, and the Commonwealth DPP has a number of officers throughout its national presence who do almost nothing but this. It's a significant volume.
But do you also hope then that might set to the template so that state governments might follow with mandatory sentencing?
Look, there are some offences in a number of the states that involve mandatory sentencing. So, as much as Labor might say they've got a principled stance against mandatory sentencing, we know that a number of Labor governments have imposed it in relation to things like homicide. They haven't done that, though, in relation to child sex offences for the most part. And so this is an important step. It's a step that shows the community that this abhorrent behaviour can't continue. But importantly, the way it's been structured in the bill that we're putting before the Parliament contains a number of mechanisms to make sure that the downsides of mandatory sentencing aren't experienced. And so by that I mean the lawyers' advocate bodies usually say the problem with mandatory sentencing is that there's no incentive for somebody who is guilty to plead guilty because they don't get any benefit for it. Well, this bill provides that you can still get a discount for an early plea of guilty because of the benefits to the system of not incurring the cost of having to prove all of it, but that's still a mandatory sentence imposed at the end of it. It's not able to be treated lightly or just a walk away today type proposition as we've seen for so many years. It's really important we strengthen this stuff up.
Senator, just on another issue, I want to get your reaction to what's happened to Jacinta Price. She's a former coalition candidate at the federal election. She's a well-known public speaker and activist on Indigenous issues. You're aware what's happened with the Coffs Harbour City Council. Isn't this an outrage that she is being told that she needs to get permission to go into a city to speak, and the only reason that ostensibly she's being singled out in this way is because she happens to be an Aboriginal woman?
Yeah, I'm sure that when the practice of doing a welcome to country was brought in, nobody ever anticipated it would morph into a requirement to seek the permission of the local Indigenous groups before you can enter and speak. It was always meant to be a matter of cultural courtesy on both sides. But to now suggest that she's not welcome unless she seeks permission is a different thing entirely. And you quite rightly, Chris, identify that It's highly unlikely this would be a conversation we were having if she weren't a proud Walpiri Aboriginal woman. But she's saying things in her capacity as a proud Aboriginal woman that are anti-Aboriginal victimhood and pro-Aboriginal responsibility and progress. They're all about getting the roadblocks away from the lives of Indigenous people so that they can achieve all that they have the capacity to do. And that doesn't fit with some people's narrative, and so they're shutting it down. It's really quite extraordinary. I'm sure of the 1.6 million visitors that come through Coffs Harbour every year, not one bar her has been asked to seek permission to enter and speak. And I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar that neither Daryl Braithwaite or Elton John or any of the other high-profile visitors who are coming to the region will face the same requirement.
Yeah,
it's not fair, and it's being used to shut her down her free speech.
Yeah.